Hey there, cats and kittens. Welcome back. I know I've been gone for a while. My life is crazy, and I have to say I apologize. I'm going to do this bi-weekly now. I think I've got this down. What I've been doing is I've lost my job. You know that. I spent some time trying to find work. When I found work finally, I then had to go through a rather lengthy process of getting my insurance license so that I could sell insurance and several other things. And that took me until June. And then once I came into June and I started working, they then told me I have to get my brokerage license. And that means I have to take the SIE and a Series 6 examination, and they are very difficult. And so I take my SIE very soon. And then after that, I take my Series 6. So I'm going to be still working like mad, studying and things like that for about the next 2 months. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to try very hard to maintain a bi-weekly schedule after this point. That's my goal. That is what I want to do. I've been gone far too long. I really miss the community. I miss all the communications, and I miss listening to books. I do listen to them. I just haven't had a chance to review them. So I've got a long list of really good books and maybe some okay books and some not so good books that I do want to get to and talk to you about. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep this pretty simple from this point forward. I'm going to keep it limited to about 3 books an episode. And I'm going to try and keep them as short as I can. I know I tend to ramble on a lot. I don't even know why I'm doing this now because I'm rambling on. All I need to say is, look, welcome back, everybody. This is the LitRPG Audio Podcast. I'm Ray, and we're about to begin by listening to some reviews by some really awesome writers. And it's going to happen right now. Okay, for my first offering today, I'm going to do New Game Plus by Ryan Rimmel, narrated by Jonathan McLean. It is the Series 5 series Noobtown. It's book 5 with a book length of 17 hours and 23 minutes.
There were few places on Ordinal more secure than the Sphinx's lair. She, of course, had spent centuries making sure of that. Despite the hidden sanctuary being hers and hers alone for all that time, her love had finally returned to share it. At least, parts of him had. The Dark Overlord's resurrection had come at a price. He had immediately fought some sort of unholy abomination that was capable of going toe-to-toe with a godling. The price her lover paid to return to her had been steep. They were alone in her private chamber, but they were not alone in the lair. From this safe haven, she'd run a shadow empire that had withstood the ages. Her every waking moment had been spent preparing for her beloved's reappearance. Presently, even the typical silence of the lair was noticeably in abeyance.
So book 5 in this series, and it's only getting better. I mean, really, honestly, it improves every time I expect something to happen. It really blows my mind. I often cite the series in conjunction with Uglin's whatever guy series, either good or bad. When it comes to like humor, I mean, those are 2 of the funniest series I've read and am reading. As that series and its companion piece, remains steady, the Uglin stuff, I can't help feel but Noobtown improves itself every time I get a new book. And that's not anything against the good guy series or the bad guys. I think they're both brilliant and they're both funny and hilarious, but Noobtown makes changes, whereas I think a lot of people can complain, and again, I understand it and I get it, that you've got like 30 books out with those 2 series between them, and it's not quite that many, but you get it. And there's not a lot of growth or change or progression, and I see progression here, and it's funny because when I first saw this book come out, I was talking to a couple people, and one was like, I hated the book. There was no progression. It didn't really do much for me. I hated the changes that they made, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh my God, this sounds horrible. I couldn't believe Ryan Rimmel would do something that, tanked everything that had come before. And I just couldn't imagine it, and that's the thing. Like, Noobtown has no problem hitting new notes and is not afraid to take risks. Okay, it doesn't. And so I thought, well, maybe Rimmel took a big risk somewhere and decided to do something that he shouldn't have. So, for example, the intrepid Mayor Jim pretty much eschews I love that word, shoes. And because it reminds me of cashews, and I love cashews. Anybody that wants to send me cashews, please do so. I really appreciate cashews. But anyway, Jim eschews most of his supporting cast as he ends up remorting, because remember, in the last book, without giving away spoilers, people haven't read it, but we're on book 5, so if you're not keeping up, he gets tossed through a demon door, and so he has to remort. In other words, he's got to take a new class, he's got to redo everything, and he comes out at level 1. Okay, so without telling you what kind of class he takes or anything like that, he remorts in Falcon Crest. Yes, there is a real place called Falcon Crest with a completely new class and a few of his old skills. If you remember, Shart is still trapped in limbo. Badgerlore is leagues away. Everybody Jim knows has either been killed or they're stuck back at Noobtown, so to speak. It's Windfall, but I like Noobtown better. And so Jim pretty much is on his own throughout the book, okay? And he makes one hell of escape. And when I say he's on his own, he does hook up with some adventurers, some fighters, whatever you want to say, periodically throughout the book. He ends up, having a quest that he has to take to help save the princess. And so, he doesn't have this big supporting cast like he usually does behind him. And, Sir Dalton's not there to say something. And, and he's reeling from the losses he's taken from the last book. So he has no real help from Shart in the real world. Okay, he's just in limbo, so he can only do certain things where he's at, which it really turns out it was really good that he was stuck there. And Badgelore's nowhere to be found. So, things just get wilder, and that's one of the best part of the series is like the reuse of the running gags. Particularly, and I'm saying this, Ryan Rimmel, if you listen or watch this video, never get rid of the fecking puma and the puma checks. The line, wait, there are pumas too? Literally made me do a spit take, and I wasn't drinking anything at all at the time I heard that. Okay? It was just that funny. Thankfully, humor is not limited to just those little bits, but those little bits are just so funny. Fecking pumas, and, that was just like the greatest because I don't want to give it away. Okay, anyway. Just keep it up, Ryan. You know when to interject those spots of funny, okay? You really do. The humor isn't limited to that. Like there's a point where like Jim surfs on an unconscious bear that he has to keep beating to keep it unconscious so that he can ride it as a surfer. And it just literally made my ribs hurt when he was talking about it. Like, I just cracked up. Oogland makes me jealous of his ability. Oogland. I am stuck on the good guys. Rimmel makes me jealous of his ability to take a scene and make it utterly kill with just a few subtle words or actions. For instance, the assassin that keeps getting her face messed up and ends up talking with a lisp due to broken teeth was one of the funniest bits I've heard in a book in a long time. And it could only come across perfectly in audio. And let me tell you, the narration by McLean is just perfect. One of the things I feared was with the remort, there were going to be too many changes and a new direction for the series. When this book when it first came out in pre-audio, like I said, I talked to people about changes. I now question the guy that actually told me this. I wonder if he even read the book at all, since all of the changes were really necessary and a part of the overall story for some time. Okay, we knew it was coming. We knew it had to happen. Jim always had to remort. It was inevitable. Some unexpected things is that Jim does do. How do I word that? Some unexpected things that Jim does do is like give himself a new name because he's really tired of being sick of Jim, the curious puppy, and Jim the curious puppy, or Mayor of Noobtown, however you want to word it. He's just not the kind of guy that needs to exist in order to kill the Dark Overlord. Either he has to become somebody else. Oh, really, you ask me? And I say yes. Yes, really. He has to change his name. He has to become somebody new. And that's one of the struggles that he faces as he goes through this process. He's trying to be somebody that can actually handle the Dark Overlord. He's trying to put his past behind him, all the pain, all the grief, all the horror, all the nightmares. And in order to do so, he needs to be somebody else. So, it all makes sense. It's all there. And I can't tell you anything more about the name. Really, I can't, really. But it's funny. And on its own, it's funny nonetheless, okay? And it's a great introspection in his character. It shows how shattered he is. And additionally, Rimmel has this thing where he breaks the fourth wall, a.k.a. Deadpool. Or actually, if we're going to step away from the movies, because the movies are what Deadpool does in the comics, and if you really want to know the truth of it, Deadpool was not the first guy to break the fourth wall in comics. No, it's more like She-Hulk. John Byrne did a She-Hulk run that was just amazing and fantabulous. Oh, I'm not even going to use the Harley Quinn thing. It was fabulous, not fantabulous. That's just nightmarish that I even said that. It was a fabulous run, but She-Hulk broke the fourth wall all the time. So she set the precedent. I'm sure somebody else can oversight me and say, well, actually, there was another series that did this. Well, I remember She-Hulk distinctly doing that, and it was either you loved it or you hated it, and I loved it. Okay, so, it also takes, aside from the fourth wall breaking, which is where he kind of does this one thing where he takes a moment to pay homage to his narrator. And I just think it was brilliantly done. It's hilarious. He also breaks the fourth wall once or twice in other places too. But, I just don't know how you can have a narrator named John McClane and not have a character somewhere along the way yell yippee-ki-yay or come out to the coast and have a few laughs, while they're crawling through some mud pit or something. I just keep waiting for that to happen. And you know what, Rimmel, I get that you don't want to go for the easy shots, but really, it's Jonathan McClane. John McClane. How can you not? Okay. When we met the orcs, and the orcs are cowboys, I thought the moment was nigh, but alas not. Okay. So speaking of Jonathan McClane, he's not John McClane. He doesn't carry a gun. And he's not from New York. Okay. Can I just say this contribution to the series cannot be overemphasized or overstated? The man knows how to do table reading. And I'm just talking like if you gave him a script and you said just go, he would kill it on the first try. This is beyond that, okay? And his malicious, lisping character killer was just wonderful. That's all I can say. The chef's kiss to Sir Jonathan McClane, because he deserves a chef's kiss for such a perfect performance. Oh, it was wonderful. And I was literally heartbroken when the killer got to a dentist off screen, and it took away from me from that point forth. Like when she was okay again, I was like, oh, it's not so funny now, because it should have just lasted the whole way. Because it should have gotten worse. It should have gotten worse as we went. But he fixed it. So, there's a point where it stops, but it's worth the time. And there's also his interrobang of, wait, there are pumas too? Was done so well. It just, like I said, it made me do a spit take, and I wasn't drinking. Okay, McClane only elevates and interjects even more into the humor when he reads his lines. There are damn few narrators who can do what he does, and I'm just saying that because if I feel that way, I can only imagine how happy Rimmel really is with his narrator, because he really does give him some praise. He really does. Overall, the book was more than a pleasant surprise, and it was action-packed, it pulsed with humor, it had character growth, it had progression, and it served to move the story ahead in a neat little package. Woo, 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 with a bow on it, and a ribbon, and a sticker that said, Merry Christmas. I'll be nice, okay? My final score is an easy to state 8.6 stars. I hated to see this book end. That's all I can say. I can't say no more. This is a continuing story, and it is brilliantly wonderful. Okay, so here's one I've held off for a while. It's Mixed Martial Arts Cultivator, Series 1, complete box set. I'm doing all 3 books at once, so it'll be an overall comprehensive review. It's written by Austin Beck and narrated by Robert West and Aaron Bateman. The book length is 22 hours and 39 minutes.
It's wonderful to see you all as well. I can't thank you enough for everything you're doing. It's too much.
Nonsense. We're happy to do it. You are our treasured neighbor that helped us with a large problem. This is the least that we could do.
I placed my hands on my hips and shook my head. I don't know what to say. It's overwhelming. Thank you. Shazo surprised me with a warm hug.
It's our pleasure.
Her red hair smelled insanely good, and I felt a pleasant warmth travel down my body while we embraced. The hug went on for a few seconds longer than I expected, but I wasn't complaining one bit. When a beautiful woman wants a hug, you give her a hug. Before she backed away, she gave me a soft kiss on the cheek.
So, why did I hold off on reviewing this book? Okay, I figured you'd ask me that. I really did. And if I'm very honest with you, I will tell you that the narration done in book 1 was really lacking, for lack of a better word, other than lacking. It lacked a lot of lacking. Okay, it was lacked. Lactose intolerant, that's me. And it was lacking so much that it stood out, and I didn't even want to pull the equivalent of like slashing a narrator's tires. So I opted not to review the book at all, okay, because it was just, the narration was just not there. That being said, other people noticed this as well, and I guess if enough people mention it, that somebody heard and went back, I'm assuming it was Beck and, maybe his other narrator, they re-recorded the lines with a different person, and it was a nice save. So let me start there. The original narration was a bumpy road, but after a work crew came in, they fixed the problem. They put all the potholes to rest. They kept it level. Thankfully, it doesn't sound like someone made new recordings and then shoved them into the appropriate spaces. It isn't choppy or jarring when you listen, and if you haven't seen the original names, you never know the difference, okay? You really wouldn't. The pairing works, and I don't think that Wes could have pulled off the non-fade to black harem scenes that are so explicit by himself. It would have kind of come across as performing self-gratification, and that's a no bueno when I'm listening to a book, okay? West and Bateman, they do work together very well. My only nit to pick is that while West does a good job telling the story, there were points I just didn't buy the whole I'm a tough guy portrayal, and his voice is genial, mayhaps even affable, but it is not intimidating. I expect a lot of MMA people to be hardcore, and he speaks more like Audie Murphy in Destry. Now, don't get me wrong. Destry is a great movie, and Audie Murphy is one hell of a guy. I respect him a lot. From the time I was a child, I have admired Audie Murphy, okay? Murphy is a hardcore, hard-to-kill, happy to put you in the ground kind of guy. But if you see him and hear him, you'd never know it. Never. And that's fine in real life. But for an audio book, the voice shapes the mental images in your head of a character. And West didn't give me the killer inside vibe that I needed. And now that said, it's no attack on him. I just think it was more of a beta performance than it was alpha. He's more, like I say, he's very affable, very genial in his voicing, but I never really heard him go, I'm gonna rip your head off at any point like that. Never did I have that danger to him. It was more like, okay, I'm going to punch this guy in the face. And if you listen to it, that's just how it kind of comes across. I kept hitting him, and that's it. Again, it's more of a nitpick for me. Like I said, I need to have a bit more danger in that voice than what I got. Otherwise, I think he did a really good job. He does a great performance. He acts out everything really well. He gives an emotional bit. And it's the same thing with his companion. I think that Erin Bateman really kind of steps up and comes across like she needs to, because she kind of pulled this book up by the bootstraps and put it where it needed to be. Because if she didn't do what she did, I don't think this book would have had, this series would have had 3 books. Because the audio for the first one just was not up to snuff. Bateman really does carry that home in a lot of different ways, okay? And so I think it's an applause moment for her for making what could have been a bad situation very much better in the end, okay? Now, the book itself focuses more on John LeBrock's fighting than his lovemaking. There is harem here, and I must tell you that it is not fade to black, and it is extremely explicit. So don't listen to this by yourself, because I don't need to have the thoughts in my head of what you're doing when you're alone listening to this. I don't need it. Just think of like nuns in baseball and sick 3-legged dogs. Okay, you'll be fine. LeBrock, a carryover from, or maybe a homage to Weird Science, perhaps, is a bad grass mofo who can knock teeth out as well as he knocks boots. So there you go. The trilogy places more emphasis on the fighting aspects than it does the lovemaking, but it's a harem book. Most harem books, there's a lot of crap going on, and then they have like the sex as a secondary thing, and that's really standard standard, just construction of a harem book. I mean, I've never really seen a harem book that puts the sex first and the fighting secondary. So here you've got the same thing. It's kind of appropriate that the sex gets put in the back seat while the MC kicks butt and does worry enough to take names from the people he stomps. Having read some other stuff by Mr. Beck, I have to say I knew going in that the story was going to be about an overpowered main character. Beck likes the tough guys, he likes the unstoppable guys, and he also likes monster girls. And so Beck made sure that O.P. LeBrock was there, front and center, and he also put in plenty of monster tail. Okay, that's not like a figurative speech. There's literal monster tail. Okay, anyway, and this is my biggest issue. I know what Beck likes, and I would like to really see him step back from having a lead be unstoppable just one time. I'd like to see him see somebody get their nose punched and they bleed and their cartilage breaks and they struggle. I'd like to see that. Having a really powerful person, front and center is great, but sometimes you've got to show, and this is like, I think one of the things that a lot of people complain about, like Miss Marvel or Captain Marvel from Marvel, I can't say Marvel enough, was that she never really had any kind of danger. She never faced any force that gave her any kind of conflict, or there was never anything that could knock her down. She just was always stronger than the other person or the other thing, and that was it. And I think that Beck needs to kind of step away from I love tough guys to maybe saying you can be tough, but you can still get hurt, you can still lose, and getting beat up after a fight that you win doesn't really count. Okay, you need to have your butt kicked 2 or 3 times in a book. You need to run away once or twice. So that's the thing. But I knew that going into it, and so I was okay. In fact, I just set my standards to say, here's where we are. This is what we're going to do. And I was fine with it. I took it for what it was worth, and it was a good read because I really didn't want to do anything. I just said, here's the roller coaster, and we're going to go on this, and I knew what we were going to do. So that's it. So just go in with that expectations. Some highlights for me, and this is where it kind of gets humanizing, was the fact that LeBrock and his opponents could beat the hell out of each other. And then, for all intents and purposes, later on, they could go have a beer together. Let me tell you something. This is real. I've been there myself, and it has such a ring of truth to it that it made me consider that Beck is actually aware that a fight is just a fight, and that people can walk away and still be friends afterwards. Sometimes your best friend will come out of being in a fight with them. Now, if you're good friends and then you get into a fight, that kind of ends the friendship. But I've had more than enough friendships start with a fight. Believe it or not, I've been there. And then, the truth is, where I grew up, and it's still a joke, you either went to jail or you became a priest. And there were a lot of times I could have gone to jail. We got into real fisticuffs, and there was a lot of danger. I've got a scar on my hand right here where I got stabbed with a knife as a young man because I thought I was super tough. And, well, I really am. But anyway, that put aside, that was like one of the most meaningful parts, and I think a lot of times that sort of stuff gets overlooked. So, it was nice to see like a little bit of humanity in the unstoppable guy. It kind of made like Superman be more believable. The narration works, and there is plenty of blood spilled. The fights are fast, frantic, and the lovemaking detailed. The fact that I expected an overpowered MC just tempered my expectations, and I just sat down for the ride. It's kind of like being on the log jammer at Kennywood Park. If you've ever gone there, you know what I'm talking about. It's wet, it's dirty, and just a tad dangerous. So I didn't come in expecting War and Peace. I came in expecting Roadhouse to meet with like Playboy After Dark, or maybe Penthouse in the afternoon. I don't know. Either way, I think the book succeeded in doing what it set out to do. It is a little light, I have to say, on the LitRPG aspects, but that is expected with Beck. I think he kind of liked to just give it some progression stuff. He's not detailed and crunchy. He's more of a mushy LitRPG writer. And I understand that. I'm not good with numbers myself, so if you see my stuff, it's going to be mushy too. So just don't expect a lot of crunch as you go through the book. It is game lit, but it's not like hardcore lit RPG. Either way, I think it earned a solid 8.3 stars with the narration, the improvement, of course. And, like I said, there is some humanizing parts to the story that I enjoyed. And like I said, if you're into harem, which I enjoy, as I've done a couple specials on it, I think you'll really like this book. So check it out. Okay, so here is my Soundbooth Spotlight. I'm going to try and do one every show from now on. It's only fair and fitting. And I have to ask Ramon, if you could, do some fireworks or make this big and bold. Do something to let people know how much I appreciate Soundbooth Theater. Okay, there you go. Okay, so this one is Dungeon Crawler Carl. Yes, I'm behind the times. I haven't been around, people. I'm sorry. I'm just getting caught up. Okay, Dungeon Crawler Carl is written by Matt Dinniman, narrated by Jeff Hayes, the man of 1,000 voices, the Lon Chaney of narration. It's book 1 of the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. It has a book length of 13 hours and 31 minutes, which is way too short.
The transformation occurred at approximately 2:23 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. As far as I could tell, pretty much anyone who was indoors when it happened was instantly killed. If you had any sort of roof over you, you were dead. That included people in cars, airplanes, subways, even tents and cardboard boxes. Hell, probably umbrellas too. Though, I'm not so sure about that one. I'm not gonna lie, you guys who were inside, probably warm and asleep and dreaming about some random bullshit. I'm jealous. You're the lucky ones. You were just gone, splattered into dust during the transformation. It was a Tuesday, and the calendar had just ticked over to January 3rd. A terrible winter storm had descended on North America, and half the country was buried in snow and ice.
All right. I have to say, Matt Dinniman is just too twisted and perverse enough that I might start worshiping him from afar. I mean, he's just insanely twisted. It's like he read like a real Cthulhu mythos kind of pamphlet, not like a whole novel or something that's going to really scramble his brains, but it just made him just twisted and sick enough that he's really great for this kind of stuff. First, he gave me Popper, and then he let me slog through the guts and testicles. Yes, the testicles of a giant kaiju with him. We weren't really together in the testicles. I'm just saying I was there, in the story. Okay. And now he gives me Dungeon Crawler Carl. I hope that he never goes to therapy, no matter how much he needs it. Never. All I can say is, stay off your meds, Matt. Stay off your meds. I joke, but not really. I mean, literally, I really feel that way. If he's got a screw loose, I just want him to stay that way because I need his writings. Very few writers will come up with something that I use in real life every day, and yet he gave me a phrase that allows me to swear, which I adore. If you know me in real life, you know that one of my greatest pleasures in life is coming up with creative curses and swearing. In fact, I swear so much on days when I don't swear. My kids will ask me if I'm feeling okay. Seriously, honestly, I really love to swear. And he gave me this thing which I adore doing, and it's simultaneously innocuous. It's a curse, but it's really not so bad. Okay, so I have now adapted into my vocabulary, into my core, the phrase, "God damn it, donut," so that it makes me mad. Even if I'm mad, it sounds like I'm just kidding. If it wasn't for the blasphemy, even my wife would approve and be okay with it. I mean, my wife hates it when I say the JC or the GD stuff, but God damn it, donut, I can say that about anything, and no one gets mad at me. It's not offensive. I don't understand how. But if I'm cursing a donut, first off, it confuses people. It puts them off. They're kind of off their center. They're knocked back a little bit. And so I can curse, and people don't know why I'm mad or if I'm mad at all. This is brilliant. God Damn It Donut is now mine. I've stolen it. I told Dinneman, God damn it, Dinneman, I'm taking this phrase. I told him. Okay? So whether he likes it or not, there's going to be one guy out here in the world, the real world, not Carl, that goes around saying, God damn it, donut. And I probably cursed enough on this show, and I very rarely ever do it. But this is so worth it. I just love God damn it, donut. Okay? Now, all that aside, Dungeon Crawler Carl is an utter masterpiece. It is witty, funny, and dark at times. I can say without reservation that I never once envisioned that I would be following a series whose main hero has earned the title of Crazy Cat Lady and is in no way, shape, or form a lady and is not surrounded by 100 cats. It's just a man running around in his boxers, bereft of a weapon, accompanied by one of those ugly-arsed cats with a smushed-in face that goes by the abbreviated name, because it's a long name, of Princess Donut. Now, Princess Donut is one of these show cats where, you brush her and you put a little bow on her head and you take her out to be viewed. And everybody goes, oh, isn't she lovely? She gets a blue ribbon, boop, and she gets it, okay? I hate those cats. I hate those cats with those smushed-in faces, like the angry cat face. I hate them all. I don't like those cats, not one bit. But goddammit, Donut, I love you. Dinneman tells a tale of a dungeon crawl that takes place after the Earth gets apocalypsed by its rightful owners. By that I mean the people that put the people on the Earth in the first place for just this purpose, in the pursuit of producing an interstellar reality show that centers on the survivors of Earth being whittled down rapidly as they struggle to survive a descending dungeon, or an inverted tower, if you will. Hear me out. It's an inverted tower. So the question isn't whether you will survive. No. But just how low can you go before you get killed or make a deal with the dungeon's owners. Now, Carl ain't having none of that. I mean, none. He likes to tell it like it is, and he could care less about the consequences. While Donut, she kind of thrives on public adoration, likes and shares, in ways that only a show cat could or can. And while the book is a little more than a standard tower climb, but upside down, it somehow is refreshing and feels unique, even though it's not. And that, I say, dear friends, is Matt Dinneman's true power. He takes an old idea, treats it like Gallagher does. Gallagher? You guys even know Gallagher? Do you remember Gallagher? I don't think anybody under my age knows Gallagher. But he treats it like Gallagher does watermelons. And he whips out some crazy stuff that can make your ear spin. Now, I say that for the audio, because if you read it, I reckon that your eyes would spin. I'm only guessing. I don't know. But I only do audio. Speaking of audio, I have to tell you, and you know it's coming, right? You know it's coming. You know me. You've heard the show. I'm going to say, there's a line I say every time I do this with Jeff Hayes. Jeff Hayes is my favorite narrator. And while he is always at the top of his game, he somehow upped it for this book. Like literally, I mean like upped. Even though it's a descent, he upped the ante on this, okay? Until the point that my favorite character that Jeff has ever done it's been like Boxy Morningwood. He's really never matched that character in any way. Like when you hear Boxy being Boxy as the mimic and not anybody else, it's just brilliant. And I love the voice of Boxy. That's from the Everybody Loves Large Chess series, which I know everybody that is in my family, aside from my wife, we all love large chess too. But I have to say, that is a singular character, okay? Jeff tells this tale in Carl's voice, and he's hilarious in Carl's voice. The portrayal really sounds like Patrick Warburton, a.k.a. Putty from Seinfeld, or for you younger kids, like Joe from Family Guy, but without the deep bass of the man. I can't even do the wispy aesthetics that he has in his voice that makes him sound like he hasn't had a drink of water in a month. But Jeff has the cadence, the patter, the timing down to a T, and it utterly fits the story. It's perfect for Carl because Putty sounds like an idiot, but he's not an idiot. Well, maybe Putty is. I don't know. It's hard to tell. I mean, he hooked up with Elaine. He can't be that smart. Anyway, but the character really comes across like Putty being stuck in a dungeon. And it works. Like, it's all I see as I see Putty running around in a leather jacket and a pair of boxer briefs, zipping through in his bare feet, or maybe I'm even waiting to see if he can't get like some pink bunny slippers or, something silly for his feet, just for when he's not fighting. But I think it's probably the best performance in Jeff's career. It's really, really great. And I've heard it like in other books once or twice, but it was always just a character. Like I know when I listened to the most recent Everybody Loves Large Chests, I heard that voice in there for some background character, and he put it forward like this was just brilliant. Like I say, Jeff is like amazing, and I don't know if he did this intentionally or not. I really don't. I have no idea. I would love to talk to Jeff on a daily basis. However, my life doesn't allow that, and I have a restraining order that says I can only talk to him if he invites me to do so. So, and I don't want to go to jail. I have to listen to I just have to listen to the restraining order. Okay, the book is worth a second and third listen. Okay, just take my word for it. I find it to be one of the freshest stories I have come across in a long time. Really, the fact is that it's stunning you when you consider the other stuff that Dinniman has written. I mean, it just knocks you off your feet. Dinniman is this brilliant guy who he is fearless. He has no problem making characters who some people might question, making characters do things that other people might question. Like I say, crawling through giant kaiju balls isn't exactly something you would think would be front and center, but it was there, and I read it, and I loved it. So you really just kind of have to have Dinniman's mindset. You have to appreciate it going in, because if you don't get Dinniman, you don't get him at all. And I think that the popularity of the book, like I knew the book was popular. I didn't realize how popular. It's huge, and there's a reason why it's huge. I'm giving it 8.6 stars, and believe me, there was a book that's out right now that I'm going to be reviewing in the next few weeks. So let me just say real quick, I'm going to be reviewing stuff by Shirtaloon and Charles Dean, and it's a whole slew of people. And maybe you're going to expect me to say, hey, this book was brilliant, and I'm not. I'm going to say, you know what? I was kind of like shocked at it. I went in like hearing how bad the first half was, and the second half was great. And I really thought the first half was better, and the second half was crap. Okay, and I'll explain all why. But like I say, this book, Dinniman's one of my favorite writers, hands down. Like at this point, 3 different series, he's captured my eyes and my heart. I just have to say, I respect him, and I just hope he continues cranking out stuff. I'm gonna just go out and get I only get like a credit a month now, so like my span of what I have to review is very limited. So thankfully I've been away for a while, and I've got a big backlog of books I'm going to be bringing forward. So there will be some that are behind at times, like this one, the Shirtaloon book. It'll be behind like that one. I have other things there's a great book called Office Wars that I need to talk to you all about. But I just need to get those caught up. So check them out. But this is my spotlight for my Soundbooth Spotlight Theater, my Soundbooth Spotlight. That's it. See, my brain isn't no working anymore. Haven't done this in so long. There's a reason why this is my Soundbooth Spotlight for this week, bringing it back. I really have gone through several really great books from Soundbooth, but this one I just had to do it because it's Dinniman, and I loved it. Okay, 8.6 stars. Dig this book, babies. It is worth every second of it. Well, that's our show, everybody. I do appreciate you taking the time to watch or listen to the show. If you want to support us, as always, you can like the LitRPG Podcast Facebook page or the YouTube page, or just share and like the video. I sincerely hope you like the show. Please leave comments and suggestions below. Feel free to say whatever you like. I enjoy the feedback. Remember, as always, you can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. And remember, the Audiobook Podcast and the LitRPG Podcast are now also on Audible. So you can look for them there and find them and listen to them anytime. I don't know how many are on. I know they're not all there, but they're there. So remember, please leave a review for any book that you've listened to or read. Authors really depend on reviews. Remember, the scoring system is messed up. 5 means you really enjoyed it. 4 means it was good. 3 means you absolutely hated it, because 3, 2, and 1 all mean the same thing to Amazon. This is a middle ground kind of thing. It's either love, or absolute hate for the last 3. So, if you really want to demolish a book, even if you thought it was okay, give it that 3-point rating, because it will be able to tank that book faster than the Titanic when it got hit by an iceberg. Okay? And I think that was all done by the polar bears, by the way. I think polar bears are out for our ships. So just remember that. Beware polar bears. And just try to be fair when you review, okay, and when you rate. Because rating is really hard, if you think about it, when it comes to Amazon's strict restrictions on what they really mean. So like I say, leave a review and be fair about it. For the LitRPG Audiobook Podcast, I am Ray. Please keep listening. Take care, guys.